Hey everybody, welcome to Board Online, Board Offline. Today we have another video from another channel. These are the Legends of Nerdvana. 3 people who are working their way through a 3,000 game collection, and then, if I know gamers, adding more to that collection before they finish working their way through it. So we're going to bring you a video from them. We've got several videos from them coming up in the future. Hope you enjoy them. Click on the link in the description below to go check out their YouTube channel. Here we go.
Hello everyone, today we got to play Maglev Metro.
That's right, you got it.
I had to practice it. It doesn't
She fought through it, but she made it.
It does not flow off the tongue, I will say that. So this game is a train game, but it's more of like a, like a subway. It's more of like a subway, like your New York, kind of a metro kind of game. So it's not quite your normal train game that you would kind of experience as far as theme goes. But it is you do have track laying elements. You're trying to get passengers from here to there. And so that's kind of the overarching theme there. So let's move on to quality of pieces. I think we were all pleasantly surprised by the quality that this game had.
Yeah, I mean, this is by the same people that made Suburbia and the Castles of Mad King Ludwig. Yep. And I suspect when they did that Suburbia upgrade, they just fell in love with high quality components, because there's a definite feel of the Suburbia high quality.
And this is out of the box.
Yeah, this is not an upgrade. This is the way it comes.
And the price point is?
Actually, it's $69.95 as far as MSRP, but I saw it on Geek Market for a little bit cheaper, around $40. So a little fluctuating depending on where you look at.
Okay, so not bad. I don't think that's bad. Qualities don't. The cards don't have linen finish, but I think they're fine.
They're pretty solid, but they're not great cards. We'd want to sleeve eventually.
Super cool first player token.
Yeah, the first player token is amazing.
That's super neat. And, the M is for Miranda. That's obviously...
I thought it was a W for Wilson or winner for me.
No, it's for me. It's Miranda, and then you flip it over. It's Wilson. Miranda Wilson. There you go. All right. And then the cardboard tiles are like super thick. They're like double.
Yeah, you remind me of like when you go to the museum and they have those little boards that you can press the blocks in.
I think it's to add that 3D element to the board, though.
That's the only thing that can make sense, because these are super thick. Some of them aren't quite symmetrical. They kind of overlap, but...
and I think the other reason is that probably if a 4-player game with your acrylic tracks, it's probably going to become flush.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that. Yep, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Overall quality, though?
The board is really amazing.
That's one of the best parts, because it's
4-piece puzzle. It sits smooth, and on the other side, it's indented on both sides, so you can put in the pieces into the board on both sides.
Yeah.
And it's 2 different layouts that have different play. The way that you play them is different.
Manhattan and Berlin.
Oh, and then the same thing we didn't mention is these amazing rail cars are
super cool.
Super cool.
Good lady.
I think the only horrible negative thing is the player boards are super warped.
Yeah,
bad warped. Like.
Did they come out of the box that way, or have you seen it get worse since we've had it out for a while?
They looked about the same as the way they were when they came out the first time. They're all indented too.
Yeah,
everything's indented. They went out of their way to make everything super nice, except for the cards, which are and unfortunately, in the process of building the player boards, they got them all curved. We'll have to flatten them somehow.
And one other minor quality defect, as far as quality, is we found that there was a couple of cities where the track tiles did not lay perfectly together in between the city and the hub. So they were kind of cockeyed a little bit, where they weren't able to lay flush.
Yeah,
wasn't a huge deal, but it was noticeable.
Yeah, and it's a little annoying. And I think it might have to do with these squares, because they're like 2 are glued on top. You can see some of these are overhanging.
Right.
So I think there's some
maybe
issues there.
We could maybe sand them down a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there might be something we could do.
If Randy believed in doing such things to his board game.
Yeah, I'm not even sure I do. So what would we give it a score, guys? What's the score for the quality of pieces?
Personally, I'd give it a 9. I think it's really high quality. I mean, a couple of minor defects that keeps it from being a 10, in my opinion, but it's pretty darn close.
I'm feeling more of an 8. I think the board warping's pretty bad.
It is pretty bad, but it's still functional.
It's,
I mean, it'd be different if the inlay wasn't there to where then the pieces slid around and stuff
that
like
would be awful.
And then it would be horrible. But because that didn't happen, I'm going to knock it down a little bit, but not significantly.
Well, I mean, but you also have to include the card quality is not great.
I didn't mind the card quality.
Yeah, so I think if you combine the two for me, I'm at an 8. Although I love. I mean,
honestly,
love the
I would have
love
given this a 10 for all the effort they put into it, if not for the curling on these. That's
right.
It's to me, it's 9 to 9.5. It's really close. I mean, there's no. I mean, he's got a felt bag that's really good quality. This isn't a chintzy bag. They just went above and beyond on every component except the cards a little bit. Are they not the best? And the curling of this, but that is even the board. They tried to go above and beyond. It's just a production issue, I think. But I mean, you got the see-through pieces, and these all line up really cool on the board, so you can play all 4 of them overlapping and not have the roads crossing. I thought that was really cool and something I've never seen in a game before.
Yeah, I think that's pretty nifty. I do.
So, I mean, it just looks beautiful on the table. We'll get into more on that on the theme.
So 9.5.
Yeah, I'll give it a 9.5.
9. I'm at an 8. All right. So moving on to theme, I think this actually has a pretty good theme. I think you feel it. You're taking passengers from one place to another. Mm-hmm. I do think each different station has different kind of people that you're trying to get to. I think it's actually pretty cool.
Well, it's got neat iconography. The colors are very bright, vibrant, and I love that the inlays that have the sign. The name looks like a street sign you would see in
a subway.
In a subway station. It's really cool. They did exact lettering with it. I love how they've done it, and the player boards are beautiful as far as the colors on them. I think this is they've knocked it out of the park as far as capturing a futuristic subway system.
I know it's pretty cool.
It's really cool.
So score it, guys.
I'm going to give it a 9. I think they did a really good job on it. Mm-hmm. It's really nice.
What do you think?
I think I'm going to give it a 9.5 again. I think they've really done a good job. I like to be consistent in my scores now. That's my new thing. But no, I think they've done a great job. Our only complaint was the fact that the magnetic cars really didn't work.
False advertising.
Yeah, if you're going to put
Maglev, come on, magnetic and levitate.
Yeah. We were like, okay, is it magnetic? And are they going to pull themselves? That would have been cool. But it would have been $6,000 for the game, and price point would have been a little higher.
And we could have combined our resources and maybe got
it. we need to have a lot more people watch our videos. So I think I'm with you guys. Theme wise, it hits a good spot. I'm at a 9. I think it's pretty good. All right, so moving on to rules. What did you think about the rule book?
The rule book's not bad. It's we had a few places just because just trying to learn it, we had to read them a couple times to get back there. But I don't know if it's our density or the game being a little bit, the rule book being a little wonky. It shows you pictures on how to lay everything out to set it up really nicely. Jumps back and forth between the Berlin and the Manhattan setup, which it's I guess the best way to do it probably instead of doing it back to back. They got walkthroughs for each action you can take, and I mean it really wasn't confusing at all to get through. I think it's very colorful. It reminds me a lot of the Suburbia.
Yeah, it does.
Although it has a cover. Not a full one. It's just the top. Then it goes into the contents. Because, heaven forbid, you actually had the contents inside the book. So, I'm going to give this probably an 8. I think
there's one huge issue, though, and that's with the bonus cards.
Oh, yes. The bonus cards. I forgot about that. That was why we gave it an 8. Yeah, there's nowhere in the rule books do they define what these bonus cards are.
And some of them are quite confusing because they kind of do reverse scoring. Like if you don't do certain things, you get less points instead, and it wasn't clear to me anyway.
Yeah.
So I thought they were quite confusing, and there's a lot of them, which is a good thing. But that's a lot of confusion too.
Yeah, this is one of the few games that it's like in-game bonuses. You get 4 different varieties of in-game bonus cards.
And there's a bunch in each one.
Yeah.
And you only get one of each. So
yeah. So I believe
you still keep it at an 8, even though the
yeah, I think that was why we ended up settling on an 8 on that when we talked before.
All right, so moving on to gameplay. I didn't know what to expect when we first got this out, but learning it, I actually thought it was pretty cool. I think they had some definitely interesting mechanisms in this game, specifically when you lay down track. Being able to do it next to another person and making sure it fits and where you're side by side. When the game ended, it looked like a subway map and the different, lines that you would take, the different color of lines. I thought that was absolutely fantastic. And along with, as you pick up passengers and delivering them to the appropriate hub, taking those passengers and putting them on your board. The only thing I got to admit that made me a little sad was finding out at the very end you could not move
the passengers.
You can only move
to be
the
fair,
robots.
you were told before the game started you couldn't do that, but somehow I was the only one that remembered that.
Well, I mean, that's part of learning a game. So,
now, and to be also fair, you were not in the room. Robert forgot, and he was here through the whole rules.
I mean, so to be fair,
so lots of to be fairs here.
Okay.
But,
to be fair, you're a jerk.
I think everyone knows that by now.
I mean, so I think there's a lot of cool mechanisms in this game that I haven't really seen, and I actually appreciate for a train game. So what do you guys think? What was your favorite aspect of this game? Or the favorite
I love
mechanism?
managing the player
This
board.
is the meat of the game, in my opinion.
This
part's pretty.
Yeah.
This is the
We
game
didn't really
right
talk
here.
through the player board. So your actions, you get 2 actions by default, and then you have 3 rows where you can fill a row with passengers and robots, because there's 2 varieties. We have the metallic colored ones are robots, the not metallic ones are passengers. You put them into these and fill up the slots, and if you fill a whole row, you get an extra action on this top portion. Then you have down here, unlock passengers and build stations. There's the stations that are off the board. You have to have these columns filled in order to build these various stations. The metallic colored ones are unlocked at the beginning.
Which unlocks the different color passengers that allow you to fill up other spots on your board.
Then the middle section is all robot population. But this is your basic actions of the game. Track lets you lay track. Move lets you move your train. Capacity is how many passengers you can carry. Pick up and drop off go together with that as far as filling your train. And then you have refill station, which lets you put more things from the bag randomly onto the board as far as robots and passengers. And then adjust lets you move your robots around. The thing is you've got 1 by default in all of those, and then you can fill up to 4, so you can take the action that many times, or move that many spaces, or lay that many track, whatever. Then you have 2 that you have to fill in order to do things. Just to have it doesn't give you an action, but it has to be filled, which is build a station. In order to build a station, you have to have a robot there, and then reverse your train. If you don't have that filled, your train has to go all the way to the end of the track you've laid before it can turn around and come back. So those 2 kind of just take up a robot while you've got have a need for those. And then on the right side of the board is all about scoring, and that's really cool mechanism. And all of those are passenger driven, which there's a limited supply of all of these, but there's very limited on the passenger side. The robots are more plentiful.
and I think that's where I had the most fun, is figuring out how to pick them up, how to get them on here, how to move, especially the robots, how to move them around to be able to, maybe I need more options to lay track, but towards the end of the game, I really didn't need to lay track anymore, so I can move those robots around to other options to be able to pick up more, drop off more. It was a lot of fun being able to manipulate that.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I agree. So let's give it a score. What would you give it?
Again, overall, consistent 9s. I had a ton of fun playing this game. And it's one of the few games where I thought about how can I do better after I was done. Because especially since I messed up, as you so poignantly pointed out, on not being able to move passengers, how would I do that differently the next time? I don't do that a whole lot after a game. I really think about it too much afterwards. And I did with this one.
What about you? What's your score?
One grievance that you and I talked about after the game was it felt like the game was anticlimactic.
Absolutely.
We liked the game.
3/4 of the way through was awesome.
Yeah, when you play these tiles onto the board, after they're all played, it becomes kind of just a grab passengers.
Just straight up pick up and deliver.
Pick up and deliver straight up. We liked it when it was more that you had actions to do to place the tiles. So it'd been nice if it didn't have that kind of downer ending.
Right.
So I'm going to give it an 8.5 based upon that, because I think it would have been a 9 or maybe even a 10 if it had a little more to do after.
Through the whole game, not just the first half to 3/4 is where we had the most fun.
Yeah.
I can agree with that, actually. It really ramped up to be a lot of fun. But then you didn't have to no longer lay tracks. You no longer had to play stations. And then it kind of just fell, and it was almost like a race just to finish up the passengers and put them out. But even then, once the last bit of passengers had been played out, I ended up with actions that really netted me nothing.
Absolutely, yep.
And so it just felt kind of, oh.
And I'm only keeping it at a 9 because I'm optimistic that maybe the Berlin side might be a little different, or different enough.
I don't think it'll change the feeling at the end. That's my concern, is that it's going to make things more strategic at the beginning. It may take longer to get to that feeling, but I don't think it's going to solve for that.
Yeah, I almost wish there was like, okay, all the people are gone now, or the passengers are gone, trigger the end, okay, add a few more passengers to finish out the game. Right, and you have one round to finish or something. And I think that maybe would have been a little bit better, but with it just being...
Or a real twist, like there's an earthquake, and then all the stations fall apart, and you have to, you can't build them, now you gotta go rescue people, and that's how you transport them out of there.
Wow!
So, you've been really thinking about this, haven't you?
You have been!
Most people just play the game. You actually wrote a screenplay about it.
I'm kind of an 8 for this. I had a lot of fun, but I do think the towards the end, kind of whatever. And I am and I hate to say this, I really wish you could have moved the passengers. I understand why they didn't allow it, but at the same time,
that's the strategy of the game, is knowing that you have limited passengers, and once you place them, that's it. So where do you value your passengers?
I think it would have been too powerful if you got to take advantage of them over here and then move them to the scoring at the end. I really think that they did make the right decision.
I agree. I just wish I would have remembered it.
Yeah, I think that it maybe would have turned out a little bit different in my head. But overall, again, I still think it's an 8. I had a lot of fun, except at the very end it did get kind of
boring.
Yeah, just because I had actions that I couldn't do anything with. And that just always turns me off about games. I have actions. I should feel like I'm doing something with them. So I hate wasted actions. All right, any other comments before we head out of here?
I think you should check it out. It's a fun game.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. We would love to hang out with you again. We'll see you guys later. Bye.
Bye.
What is the price point for this game?
I think.
No, because you guys haven't let me say the stats like
Should
last 3 game reviews, so I didn't write them down.
We'll come back to you, all right?
Stop.
You guys keep talking, and I'll look it up.
Okay.
Now keep talking.
Someone slacking.
No, because I've done it like 4 times, and no one's let me talk, so I'm like...
No, we've let you talk.
If I at the end, I'll go, oh, by the way.
Did anyone ask you to talk, Rob?
No, they didn't. I mean, we should have a separate section like we do rules, we do gameplay. Oh, let's do stats as well.
You've got the forgotten section. The part that runs after the credits.
Where people turn toggle off.